Hello, gang. Welcome to Forward Focus. It is July 12th. We have been stuck in a range here most of the day today. This week has been a pretty active one thanks to Powell of the Fed. We've been getting some pretty big swings back and forth. I guess I should say we can't really just put I don't know, you don't really call it blame, but we can't just say it was totally him since it was the entire Fed that was been shifting things around here all this week. It's made for some pretty active trading, but an interesting thing that we're seeing a lot this week is that a lot of the strategies aren't textbook. We're getting really rapid triggers on a number of things and some pretty rapid flips. Today is a really good example of that when we go and look at the activity this morning. I'm going to pull up our NASDAQ here first. Let's see, which chart do I want to look at? There it is. So heading into the day, we are looking at this. I'll make my chart big for you guys. 3 push swing back up into the highs, basically creating this larger megaphone that has held throughout the entire session so far today. I thought we might get a break of it here because we only pulled back about not even quite 2/3 of the way. We were just a little over half, probably like a 61.8% retracement there. And a lot of times when this happens, things will have a little bit of a harder time fully going and holding and continuing with the megaphone. But as you can see here, the momentum was pretty decent on it. Our 3-wave push went and led for a 2T. This is the first example here of how things just triggered really fast. So when we get 3 pushes to the upside with similar corrections between them, which was even more clear on the time frame charts, a lot of times our next strategy is going to be as something like a 2T. In this case, the 2T wasn't very clear. We did have a 1, 2, 3 push up in here on a smaller time frame, and then this little blurb pulled back, and then it just crashed. Really hard to get into that after it already started moving without some slippage because it went pretty quickly at that point. Really good retracement level, and then it came into this momentum reversal pattern. The tricky thing with this here is that we've had the uptrend in place. So this is really just a first initial pullback. And a lot of times this can serve as a situation where you can end up with things like a tilted continuation, basically a tilted avalanche in this case, and it can still keep going and you can get even further downside. So when you get momentum reversal like this, it can be stunted compared to typical momentum reversals. Typical momentum reversals have a target, a main target where this channel breaks, and they'll usually go for that level at least and can go and turn around and go even farther. But of course, as you can see here, because of the trend placement, it only made it up to the first resistance instead. And then we went into a 2B. And here again, we saw really rapid trigger and follow through on the 2B setup. We didn't have a smaller time frame setup. It basically just flipped right at the mission move and went almost straight up into first resistance. Phoenix here, not the perfect Phoenix. So you're looking at a Phoenix when you get a 2B where you're looking at measured time development. So technically you would have wanted it to trigger here, which it did confirm the breakout at that point, but we didn't get a secondary pullback in here. So we didn't get like a little inverse head and shoulders or anything like that. Just kind of went. And again, really fast. So very fast action, even though the setups are there. The triggers are a lot trickier today. Things are moving a lot faster. And I do think there's a good chance that we could see continued chop into the afternoon. We're just coming up, trying to pull up into upper channels on this megaphone again. We've been going back and forth for quite a bit now. So usually getting to about this point, we'll start to see the megaphone begin to break. Let's see here. You guys have anything that you want me to look at today, go ahead and post it in the questions box and we'll take a look at those today. I'm going to go up to our larger time frames, see what we've got going on here. I'm going to start by looking at our weekly and our daily time frames. Of course, on the weekly and daily, basically we're just seeing the same thing we've been talking about for the last month or so, where we are looking at the potential that this can still push higher. It's been struggling in here. Let me show you that on the daily. You can see it a little bit more clearly. So we've come up in here and we've been doing this shift. And originally what I was looking for was the potential that this could even do like a bigger kind of continuation here, that we could see this measured move up into this high. I think that is still a possibility given the way things are looking right now. I still think it's a possibility, but we have to get through the upper end of this channel right here to give us that confirmation. And it can't just be like a tail through the top. It needs to actually give us some action that closes above that channel. This is a rising pennant, which ideally for a stronger breakout, it would be more of parallel levels. So you would have seen just a little bit more pullback here to kind of widen this up a little bit to help with pulling higher. So I'm on the iffy side here. There's not a really clear-cut pattern at this point for this. So it's going to come down to what happens on some of the smaller time frames to serve as the lead points. I'm going to go down even smaller here and show you guys the 240. So we have two waves up already on the 240, and then we had that 2T yesterday. So this actually triggered overnight. I posted it in the League of Traders on Telegram late at night, and it followed through pretty well yesterday. It came into initial support. This was a 2T on a smaller scale here, even though it's also actually, kind of one on a bigger scale here too. Let me kind of show you the smaller one. Here you can see it on the smaller. So here's the one that we were looking at going into last night. And so it had a pretty messy follow through, but that was because the momentum was really strong on this as it went into that higher high, especially on the tick charts. You can't tell it as much on the time frame charts, but especially on the tick charts. And it did eventually make it to the complete 2T target. It hit our first initial targets here, channel support here. So these are the three target points on a 2T. Here's your entry trigger, target 1, target 2, target 3. So it managed to make it all the way to that third one, but look at the mess that it had in the meantime to get there. And this really came down to the momentum. Let me show you on the tick chart here. So the momentum on this portion really picked up sharply compared to this move. So here's our 2T, the pullback, the high just under the previous high, the measured move to a new high, triggers the short, but because momentum was stronger right here in this last portion, made it harder to fully turn around really quickly. So there was a lot of chop before it ended up getting to the target. Now today, what we've seen is just basically the reaction coming off of that 2T pattern, the target level on that pattern, two waves up. Here's a smaller little 2T, and that went into a megaphone at this point. So this megaphone can serve as essentially a base that can lead to another break higher, kind of holding in with the larger channel. That's what we've got to see here at this point. This is basically a do or die point for that. Can it pause here and do that next push up? If it can, great, we could get a strong move into the close. But if it reacts too sharply at this level, pulls back, oh, good, even just a third, that could affect the move this afternoon. But definitely if it pulls back halfway on this point, that's going to make it really difficult to fully give that stronger impulse move before the end of the day. But right now, that's what I'm looking for as the predominant bias is going to be into the afternoon on the upside, but choppiness here to start with at this point. So I want to be really cautious right now. I don't see a lot happening here for major setups. This is a megaphone, but the problem with this megaphone is that it has a better chance at this point to try to break higher. And because of that, I don't really want to do too much on the short side right here. I think that short side at this point, it's probably going to chop more than it will offer a really solid follow through. The Russell is actually still trading in kind of its own little world lately. We've seen that a lot over the last couple of months. It's just like the rest of the market will be going up and the Russell will be going down and vice versa. It's like it just doesn't care. And it's been offering really good setups so far. Here's an example of kind of what I'm thinking could happen in the NASDAQ this afternoon. So here you can see the megaphone on the Russell and see how it pulled back and then was able to break higher. This pulled back more than that 50% though, so the break higher was a little bit slower, a lot more chop on it. The less it pulls back, the stronger that continuation can be. So we want to see where this pulls back in the NASDAQ now to see how well that might be able to offer the continuation. But it's kind of a similar start. You got the upside, you got the megaphone. So I am looking that the NASDAQ most likely at this point is going to try to continue higher. The Russell, nice two-way pullback in here. Here's our current channel. So this is coming into a support level at this point. We should see some reaction off of this. One of the things I've been doing, you guys, lately is making sure that at the end of the day, I'm going back and adding and updating all of my Fibonacci levels. That is really instrumental. I didn't do it here yet on this computer, but I have done it on my trading computer. And so I'll go and look at the larger moves and go and add the fib points based upon the larger moves as things are changing, so that it gives me a really good idea of where some of the intraday levels are going to be for getting strong reactions. So that's going to be really instrumental for you guys also, help you out. At this point, we're looking at this should bounce up in here a little bit more, but it's not going to give us a really easy, clean setup here at this point. So this is really looking like it looks like a range bound type of thing, paying attention to what's going on the smaller momentum shifts, but I don't see a clear setup developing here at this point on this yet. The momentum is strong up, the momentum is strong back down. So it makes it more likely that we could get a little bit of chop in here. It might be able to go and do a head and shoulders. I'm going to back this up though. I'm going to see our larger time frame here. So here's our 8,000 tick. And that is something that right now is currently more favoring downside, but if it shifted like that, that could bring in another wave of buying. But right now it's favoring more downside. So I'd be cautious on bounce play at this point. Looks like it could go into a shallow avalanche. I'm going to go back even further. How's the micro Russell trading these days? It's gotten better. I've been trading it more again. I put it in timeout for a while there. I had a couple of really bad trades on the Russell where it just flushed me on the micro, because I've been trying out the micros for you guys. And it was kind of sketchy there to start with, but even the Dow is starting to shape up more, the micro Dow. So you're not getting as much slippage compared to like the bigger contracts, the bigger E-minis. By the way, if you look at this 20,000 tick here, this looks remarkably like this morning on the NASDAQ, doesn't it? Let me go and pull up that again. Just show you guys. A little smaller here. So here's a comparison. 1, 2, 3, 2T short. The difference is that this one fell headlong, this one taking a little bit longer, but I still think that that could go and develop into a shallow avalanche and bring in more downside. Kind of doing the congestion that's going on right here is what we're looking at. So this is a 400 tick chart. This is, what was it, like a 20,000, I think? Yep, 20,000 on the Russell. How are the micro E-minis doing for you? They're doing pretty well. So I've been trading them a lot since they came out. I'm going to be teaching classes on them in Chicago next week, or not next week, the week after, at the Traders Expo. So I've been putting in, I've traded up to 30, actually like 35 contracts at a time on it. I haven't tried to execute them all at once, but I've built into positions that were up to 35 contracts, and it's handled that pretty easily. That's basically like 3.5 contracts of E-minis. Why, why, why don't I just use the E-minis? Because you guys, what I wanted to do is see how hedging basically is what it's about, is looking at how hedging has worked using the E-minis and then the micros for hedge positions. And in order to flip over to trading the E-minis, you guys really need to be trading up to 30 contracts on the micros, because you're looking at like 3 exit points and getting up to 3 contracts in the E-minis. So, I mean, that's ideally what you want to do to make the slip, or to make the, I'm reading slip at the same time as I'm talking, to make the flip. Obviously you can, go over before you get up to 30 contracts. Just be aware it's going to be a little bit of a jump for you. And 30 contracts on the micros could be a lot in commissions. How is slippage on the micro E-minis? In the NASDAQ, I would have a little bit to start with, and sometimes you'll still get some after hours. More so in the evening hours here until about like 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. And yes, I've totally been trading them at 3 a.m. But until about 3 a.m., you'll get a little bit more slippage than you would in the E-minis. But overall, it's not too bad. Like I said, for a while there, the Russell is still worse than the NQ is, than the micro NQ. The Russell is still a bit more slippage, but it's not too bad. So looking at Russell, let's go up to our larger time frame here. We're going to just kind of keep pulling back on this. By the way, those of you that are going to be in Chicago, I'm going to be hosting the Women in Trading event. I've got the opening keynote, and we're hosting a panel on futures trading. So we're actually going to be talking about the E-mini too. And it's all going to be webcast. So you guys will be able to watch the entire event on Sunday online, and I will send you out the link for that as well if you don't have it already. So just watch your email from me for a link for the webcast for the Women in Trading event on Sunday the 21st. It starts at 9 a.m. I'm doing the opening address, opening keynote, and then hosting a futures panel and basically introducing all of our lovely ladies. And then I've got two presentations I will be doing then on Monday. I'm going to be doing one for the CME group, and then I'm going to be doing a main presentation for the expo itself too. So daily chart on the Russell, we've held the 76.4% fib retracement and the 38.2% or 76.4 fib fan retracement and the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement levels. And we are just in a range here. So this can still manage to break higher with this Phoenix. It's a little less ideal. It has the same cons that the Phoenix and the NASDAQ had yesterday. It still worked in the NASDAQ, but it had the same cons. Let me show you that comparison. So the intraday yesterday, at the end of the day, right here, this is what we're looking at. Similar type of action with that higher high, then the pullback into the fib fan support, and then the pull up, but it doesn't go that far. And it pulled back again and then was able to go. So it pulled back, actually the fan I think was right in here, but it pulled back here into it. It did the three lows and basically it did a momentum reversal plus, and it started to take off at that point. It struggled though with the takeoff. It basically created this as a two-way correction and went, so it didn't go to the full 100% really easily. But right now we do have that potential still, but the problem with this and this is that they have a greater failure rate. So you could see here, for example, if you bought this here, you could easily gotten stopped out on that. And then at this point, we've got this slightly higher high over here on the Russell. That's okay as long as it holds right here and manages to go. But if this pulls back too much further, that's going to create more problems too. So it's an iffier situation, not as high probability as our more textbook ones. And the main reason is that this high and this high are slightly higher than the previous one, and then they both pull back sharply. If they did not pull back sharply, then you have a chance that it could do just a tilted Phoenix and go like that. But by pulling back more sharply, that can shift the momentum so that sometimes things will just hug this fan and then they'll break down, and they can break down really quickly. So we really have to watch the reaction along that fan level. And if it continues to hug it, that can flush it to the downside pretty quickly. So it's not going to be an easier market here as we go forward on this, but it is a pattern to watch. We're at a good placement on the weekly time frame for it to try to do that, but it's also a place that things could turn around. They could still pull back more here. I do think that overall the bias is going to favor more of the upside still, just because this momentum was so strong coming off of this. Usually if this tries to go lower, what happens is it will go like this. Because this had this little move all the way back up like that, it'll usually, if it tries to go lower, it'll usually do something like this. So it'll kind of go out a little bit farther, allow for a little bit more of a momentum shift, and then break down more quickly. That's what would usually happen because of this rapid bounce here. So you could get that going on. Richard says, I understand that the reason the Russell has not participated as much in the breakout is that it has a larger percentage of banking stocks in it. What are your thoughts on that? And that makes sense. Whenever you're dealing with certain indices that aren't participating with the overall market, it's because of how they're weighted. So that means that you'll have greater industries in one than the other. For example, NASDAQ, of course, is more tech, a lot more tech heavy. So when you got greater strength or weakness in tech, that is going to move the NASDAQ a lot more than it would something like the Dow, which does not have as much in it. So that's where we see the discrepancies between the indices is because of how they're weighted in individual news action that is going on with the certain sectors and certain industries. Actually, that's something I need to make sure I talk a lot more about as we are going into, I'm doing an intro to futures course that I've been working on in my free time, right? Because I have so much of that. But I need to make sure I go into that in good detail for newbies too. The weighted impact of individual components. Actually, you guys, with the futures panel that I'm going to be doing at the expo, basically this is your opportunity to tell me, is there anything that you would like to see us talk about? I'm going to be doing it with Carly and Anka. So Anka Metcalf. Yep, hold on, I'm trying to look up the exact time. When is it? So the whole thing starts at 9 o'clock. And the panel discussion is at 9:45. And then we've got Sarah Potter. And then the Forex panel is going to be Amelia, Jody, Kiana, and Danielle. And Linda Rashke is doing the closing keynote at 1 o'clock. So it's going to be a pretty good day. Yeah, Carly Garner and Anka Metcalf are going to be doing the futures panel with me. Let's flip on over here and look at, I'm going to pull up our bonds. And gold has not been, I don't expect gold to be too exciting here over the next couple days. I'll show you the daily on gold. It's struck a good level of resistance and it's kind of stuck here. I'm just pulling up the charts for you guys, so hold on a second. Okay, so bonds, of course, hit that resistance we were looking at over the last couple of weeks. Has been holding there. Good level here for corrective activity. Got the measured move into the zone where the previous high channel broke down. That's always a good level of resistance. Momentum's pretty strong. Clear this. Daily time frame, little bitty momentum reversal. This is just kind of scalpish short term. We've got a two-wave move, so it's now at support here as we go into the afternoon here. First initial support. Probably going to be a little bit choppier here the rest of the day. Don't expect another big intraday impulse move here before the end of the day. If it does, it'd be most likely to break lower. So that's the most probable larger move here. When do I think cryptocurrency, Bit and altcoins will take off? And how do you think this will impact gold as a foundational hedge? I don't trade the cryptocurrencies, so I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know how many of our ladies trade them. I wonder if the Forex would be more. It's kind of like halfway, right? It's like halfway between futures and Forex or cryptos. It's like a middle ground there. I wonder who our crypto traders are that are going to be at the conference. Yeah, I'm afraid I can't give you a good educational guess on that one just because it's not something that is in my realm of expertise. But we'll look at gold and I can pull up the Bitcoin for you. We can take a look at that. I don't even know that the Forex panel would be good for that one. Forex or the futures. Huh. Do you guys know any of the cryptocurrency folks? Do you follow anybody that you really, really like? I mean, I know cryptocurrency traders, but I don't know how well they do in like actuality because I don't follow their educational stuff. I just know them as, you know, people. And I'm hesitant on um, offering like, hey, go follow so and so unless I actually know about their methodology and how well they do. Nobody? Okay, well, I will do some research on that and see if I can find somebody that can help answer those questions for you guys better. Let's pull up gold here. You know, Tom, is it Gentile? Gentle? I don't know him. I'll write that down and look him up. Always learning, right, guys? Let's see here. I'm going to flip on over here. We're going to pull up gold. Let's start with the larger time frame. So here's our weekly chart on gold. And we've seen this really big surge here on gold. So this is usually something that's difficult to flip back around. At this point, it usually holds pretty well. You can see, you know, the strong surge over here, for example, and the subsequent action. So I do suspect that gold is going to continue to be strong. I've been pretty bullish on gold here for a while. I'm not bullish as far as like thinking, oh, it's going to just totally take off on the monthly charts, but I do think that we're going to continue in an uptrend on gold on the larger monthly time frame. On the intraday charts or the daily chart, whoops, wrong button. There we go. On the daily, we've seen good exhaustion here again. It's the same thing. We've got a two-way push, extreme push, and chop. So we're in a symmetrical triangle right now. These can have a tendency to break one direction falsely and then break the other direction. So this could, for example, break down and then go back up. That is common. As it gets tighter around an apex, those flushes become even more typical. So if you've got something that's in a range like this, it's more likely to do a flush to the downside and then reverse. If it breaks that channel before it gets into about this section, then a false break seems to be less likely. But when it does that, then, and it breaks over here, close to when the apex is happening, or coming right into the apex. Your apex is just your line right through the middle. So it's the opening of your bird beak, because apparently there's a bird here. But that's your apex. So when that breaks, that is where you're looking at. I haven't had coffee, guys. I've gone 2 weeks without coffee, so might be getting a little skippy on you. Do I know if gold will continue to go up as the Fed cuts rates? I don't, but from a technical perspective, that's what things. I'm going to pull up a monthly chart for you guys. I want you guys to see the bigger picture here. That you can't see it even on the weekly. It has to be the monthly. So it's the bird formation. um, if we can start calling the cup with handle a bird formation, it kind of looks like a bird, right? Okay, I'm getting a little punchy. Let's see. I've got the monthly chart here. Here we go. And what we're looking at on this monthly is this shift in momentum here with the two-wave correction, then the two-wave back down, little blurb. This gives a buy, and it's kind of similar to a lot of what we've got going on in the overall market as far as like the range-bound action goes, with a lot of them are forming wedges or triangles either way. And this started to kind of try to shift the momentum to the downside, but it was able to pop back up enough where it pulled back more than 2/3 of the drop. That's what's allowed this to pull higher. So it's creating this rounding off here. So I do think that this has decent potential to continue on the upside and keep going at this point. We've got to, of course, be careful as it gets, up into about here, that it could do flushes to the downside. But this lower low here and then the higher low here, we've got an inverse head and shoulders. And with that inverse head and shoulders, the momentum picked up pretty decently coming off of that right shoulder. If this had stalled less than like halfway or less on the way back up, better shot that it would have broken down. But it did pull up right up into that previous breakdown zone. So that's usually a clue that you're going to see it continue and do at least another wave up. Well, we got that second wave up and it was still really strong. In fact, it was stronger than the first one. So that tells me there's probably going to be at least a third. It could be the same momentum as the first one, but I'm usually going to be looking for a third one at that point. Usually not going to have as strong of momentum as the second one unless it goes faster. So if this went like right here as like a 1, 2, 3, that could go faster. So let me kind of draw that out. So if you get the second move that's faster like this, it can go with a 1, 2, 3 like that, or it can go more like this so that that third move mimics the first move. So those are both, I think, potentials that we do have on gold. So I'm going to watch this momentum here as we get this correction and see if we can get some setups on the smaller time frames for the upside. So first setup would be about half the distance of this first correction. And then second here would go about the same amount of time here to here. So we'll see, but I'm really cautious on the downside. In cases where this does hold, you'll usually see corrections like this, where it can chop and then push lower, but it'll get off to a choppier start before it gains momentum. And this point right here is basically your do or die point because it's the measured distance here to here. So that's your do or die point. If it goes past that point, then it opens it up to a whole other range of possibilities. Let me go back to the smaller time frame and show you that. On the smaller time frame, so shoot, I can't scroll over on this. Okay, but at this point here, in order for it to go fast, like a 1, 2, 3, you basically just want a kneecap type of correction. And that can get that fast continuation going, basically like this, but repeated on a larger scale. But the next point will be correction out to the same amount of time as this correction was. So these are all about that same amount of time. And look at this one, how that one went to that same amount of time, but then it broke down. So that's like your do or die point at that level. So if this were to fall sharply at some point, it would tend to start out like this. So that's why watching this momentum as this corrects is really important, because this had some of the sharper downside spikes and then it kind of shifted and held that lower end there, and that led to that stronger breakdown. But we don't know in the early stages if it's going to be able to do that or if it's just going to do another nice two wave like this, where it could have a sharper start, slower, and then that actually leads to another move up. Again, if it goes for that third move, I would expect the momentum to be closer to this though, not like this. Yeah, I know our overall market hasn't done anything exciting this afternoon. It is still stuck. Here's our S&P two-wave pullback and basing. So this does still open it up for that potential for the break this afternoon. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on that still. Let's see here, you guys. Open up my other charts here. I haven't been doing as much stock trading lately. So let's open up a trade station. Any reason? No, not really. I kind of go in waves, guys. I fluctuate between different markets. If I get bored with one, I'll go and trade another, and I just know it's not really a one I love more than the other. I love stocks. I love futures. I love Forex. Fortures is a cross between futures and Forex. It's a brand new one that I just made up. Right? We could call Forex futures for Fortures. Oh man. So, yeah, exactly. It's a brand new one I just made up. Let's see here. Let's get this pulled up. I'm going to also open up our Bitcoin. So I'll take a look at that. You guys love when I just make stuff up, don't you? It wouldn't be nearly so fun. Do I make any adjustments to the fib tools in TradeStation, or do I use them as is? I use them as is. I do make adjustments on how my placement is, just like what I teach you guys in League of Traders. But I just use the same standard. ones that they have built in. So, Bitcoin chart. GPN is like the stock that doesn't stop, right? Okay, Bitcoin, here we go. Richard, my trade station, I do have 10 on my trading computer. And that is only because I set up a new computer around the same time that it came out. Otherwise, I tend to delay on updates. All right, Bitcoin here. So what we've got on Bitcoin, 1, 2, 3, trend exhaustion here, momentum increasing with each move. So things are going to be pretty decent for swing and day traders here on the weekly time frame on the Bitcoin for the next, probably the next 2 months or so. I think you'll have some good move, especially over the next month and a half or so. You'll get some good swings on the smaller time frames. After that point, it could get a little bit more sketchy. It could get more difficult again. The range will start to narrow. It'll become more difficult to do predictions on directional movements. You'll start to get more false breaks. On the 4-hour chart, we can kind of see the action a little bit more cleanly. So you can see how we've had some pretty decent swings back and forth, good two-wave directional moves. Interestingly, we didn't have a flush here. This is a level where it is common that we can get flush moves, for example, to the downside before it breaks to the upside. We just didn't have that happening here. But this is what you have to watch for on these triangles, because right here is a lot of times where you will see that flush to the downside. Even though the larger bias is to the upside, it'll trigger to the downside. It will usually go for about a measured move here to here, and then it will turn back around again. So you got to be cautious with that type of triangle, because sometimes it will break down but then flip back on you. Didn't do that here though. We've actually got action pretty close to our morning NASDAQ here. So it went up, did the 2T, came back down, did the momentum reversal, only hit first target. So this can go for 2B here and then flip again. That's what I would watch for on the Bitcoin. See if it can do something to kind of push this out and then allow that to pop back up. So you'd be comparing it to, let me put that chart up. This here. So right now we are at that point right there. Here's this. Here's the shift. So I'd be looking to see if that can do a 2B, and that would give me a stronger buy. It could still go here, but there's a greater chance it would be a trap and could struggle more. So usually I'd like to see that go a little bit more, because this is only one first initial move down after it's already had 2 waves back up. So I'd like to see something that tries to do some sort of second move down, even if it means that it's something like this. That'll kind of take that and clear that up a little bit better. Give me a stronger setup on it. All right, Forex. So euro dollar is the one that I've been trading the most over the last couple of months here. It's been just doing really nice pivots, and you can see all these gorgeous intraday setups. Problem, of course, is some of these are triggering overnight, so gotta be a little bit insomniac to catch some of them. But we've had some pretty good action here on the downside and really nice trend development. So going into this week, we've had the 3 waves down and then the 2B into the 10th. Nice little pop. This is a potential Phoenix zone, but it has had 2 waves up already and came back quite a bit, pulled through that lower channel. So Phoenix, probably more of a scalp here at this point. 2 waves in here. But you do have a Phoenix trying to form on the intraday charts here. I think that this is probably going to get a little bit trickier to trade over the next couple of weeks again. But so far, patterns still continuing to hold well, so I wouldn't worry too much yet. NASDAQ is at resistance here, by the way, for those of you following it here intraday. Little 2-wave push up. It's just been creeping. Well, since like 11:15 or 11:25-ish. This is basically where we're at, similar type of action with the 2 waves, 1, 2, and so then it had the pullback on the euro dollar, and you can see it managed to pop there on the dollar yen, but it's not really, doing too much. And this is why I said in here, we've got the potential for a Phoenix on the euro dollar, which would be about this level, similar. So it can still do that, but trying to get in a full bigger move is going to be more difficult. So let me show you that again here quick. So the euro dollar here, you can see it's pulled back. And if you look at it on the daily time frame, it looks a lot like the dollar yen did on the 240 minute. So it can do one more pop, but not like the bigger moves here. I would expect it to come up to maybe about here, just a measured move on the Phoenix, and then it could pull back down again. So dollar yen looks like it's trying to do a megaphone. So I would expect this to be able to pull down to this level down in here. Maybe do a triangle or an avalanche that could drop it back down again. I don't see a good setup here quite yet, but it could, and within just really a day or two, it could offer a short setup again. What I would look for a short setup is like 2 little moves up like this here, and then the breakdown. So you could even short, that upper end of a second move, or you could short the channel break. But that's what I would look for here on the dollar yen. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily take too long for that to play out, maybe not even 2 days that develops like that. Our pound is in a wedge still, and this is at support. So I'm going to still be looking for the upside on this into next week. And we'll just need to watch the momentum. In order to make it all the way back up to that high, it really should have strong momentum into this point here. If that momentum slows like that, then there's more of a chance it could end up breaking lower. and doing another big push to the downside like this. So this momentum here is going to be really key. It has to keep picking up. So if it slows, you're long and it slows, it could flip around on you at some point because of that slowing momentum. So you want to get more aggressive with trade management. But right now, I'd be more bullish on this as we continue into next week, as it just continues with this megaphone formation right now. Richard, my dad and his computer geek friend made my trading computer. So I can't really recommend a brand for you. I always liked Asus is a pretty good one if you're looking for just like laptop trading. Let's see. My newer laptop is a Hewlett Packard, but you want at least an i7 core, lots of memory, lots and lots and lots of memory. I cannot emphasize that enough. We've had discussions on trading computers before in League of Traders. Nicole, did you write up those specifications we talked about a couple months ago? See if I can put Nicole on the spot here if she's paying attention. Nope, I don't hear her. Okay, I'll see if I can grab those specs and post them in League of Traders forum for you. They have a new Intel 5, i7, i9, 6 and 8 core processors now. Mine are i7s, so I don't have the i9 yet. i7s works fine with both TradeStation and Ninja. I don't have any problem with it. Yeah, I mean, if you go with more of like a gaming computer, you'll have more luck. If you're going to purchase off the shelf, you'd want to go for like a gaming computer. You don't have to get super expensive, guys. I mean, you can get a good computer, even if you just have somebody um, put one together for you. You can get a pretty good computer for not too much. I know a lot of like if when you go and you look at like buying a trading computer, like the sites that specialize in trading computers, they are crazy expensive for new traders. Like it doesn't make sense to start out on that. I don't know that it even makes sense after a long time to even go up to that. I don't think you have to. They look pretty, but you can get the same thing basically without spending as much. I am thrifty, you guys. My husband thinks it's hilarious, but I will always be thrifty. Let's see here. Do you guys have any other questions for me? I'm just flipping through the chat here. I think I got everything. Yeah, that's like the mean ones. I hear you need more computing power the more charts and analysis you do at one time. Okay, you guys, I have a lot of charts up. Um, and I am not on like a spiffy trading computer. Mine is a gaming computer, yeah, but it was one that was basically built. I don't even know, like the box is a Dell. So, but all the inside components, they changed them out. So I'm running 3 main monitors on my trading computer. They're 24-inch, and I've got about, I think I counted like 17 main charts, but like, I don't know, 100 tabs or something. I do have one computer that's dedicated to trading, yes. So I don't do anything else on there. I mean, I put Telegram on there just so that I can grab my charts faster than I used to be able to do, so I could grab them and put them into Telegram for you guys. But I don't do anything else on that computer. Can I look at Tesla? Yeah, we'll pull up Tesla. And I have never even used it for giving any sort of a class or anything. I just don't want like any risk of malware or anything coming up over there. Plus, it keeps all of the memory and everything dedicated to my charting. Um, I mean, really, my opinion on Tesla is exactly the same as it was last week. I don't see good setups on here. It is trying to do that next wave up, but this is almost like it could break down again because it has the waves up, then this, and then it's kind of doing a two wave. So it's getting into a do or die point. Is it going to be able to break here and continue to push? But it could go and totally fall. So the shift in this momentum here is what helps turn this around and all of that support back there. But at this point, I've seen a lot of these that are kind of like a fake cheap Phoenix, and then they'll crash again. So I do think that's possible here on the daily chart. It's coming into that do or die point. So watch that smaller intraday momentum because that could shift quickly. If you get any sort of rapid drop at that point, that can really bring in better selling on that. Do I keep my trading journal on the same computer? Yes. I print out all of my charts though. So when I'm doing reviews, I'm basically looking at notebooks, 3-ring binders. So I do have Snagit, of course, installed over there. Not really much else though. I mean, just basic stuff I use for trading. That's about it. I don't even do my email on that trading on that computer at all. Um, David, I'm not sure the context of your question. So this week I spoke about a false breakout in signals of a failure using candles. Could you review? 50% retrace. I'm not sure what the context was for that. If you can find like the video or whatever, I can go back and answer that for you and we can cover it in the forum. Do I use a laptop for trading? Sometimes, like if I'm traveling. My backup uh, trading stuff is all on my new laptop. I use my older laptop for expos and things like that. What do I use Snagit for? For my trading journal and for working with you guys. Allows me to grab charts and write on them and share them easily. Is Snagit a good tool? Snagit is an awesome tool. You don't need to buy the one where you pay for upgrades and you get upgrades. I used the last version of Snagit I used for like 10 years before I bought an upgrade because I'm just using it for journaling. I'm not getting fancy. So it gives you two options. It gives you like an option where you can purchase it outright and you can put it on like two computers. And then you have the option of where you can get upgrades and stuff like that. So you don't need the upgrade option. You just need the outright one. So I think it's like what, 40 some dollars, I think. I did a class in League of Traders a couple of weeks ago on using it for journaling. So you'll find that in the member section in the logs. You are welcome, you guys. Okay, we are going to wrap this up and I am heading out and we will see you, let's see, next Friday. Yep. I'm going to be on the road here a lot over the next month and a half. Heading to Iowa next week, visit family, drop off my kiddo, then heading to the expo in Chicago, then heading back to Iowa with a pit stop in Ohio, then coming back to Tucson, then going to the Netherlands, then going to Turkey, then Greece, then Turkey, then Tucson. So it's going to be crazy. Gonna have to fit everything in. Um, yes, the link for the expo. I got to get you guys the link for the live session. So I'm going to ask them for that and get that over to you. So I will let you guys know what the schedule looks like as far as League of Traders goes and Forward Focus when I'm traveling. So we will not be doing Forward Focus or League of Traders when I am overseas. So I'm adjusting memberships accordingly. I'm going to be gone basically 2.5 weeks overseas. And let's see, I should be able to do everything though when I'm traveling to Iowa and Chicago. We'll still have our sessions and stuff. I'll just be working from hotels. So my travel dates for overseas are July 31st through August 18th. I'll post that in here. I'm running for president. No. No, thank you. Yeah, so we'll be resuming the week of the 18th. All right, you guys, I am heading on out. I'm going to get this up on YouTube, and you can find it at tonyhansen.com/Friday. So everyone have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all back here next week.